Last night I went to a tech event. It was a VC and founder event. And I met somebody, as I often do. And I went up to this person. I said, hello. Started talking to her about her life. And I asked her, why are you here? She's like, I want to get money from investors. I'm like, oh, cool. This is supposed to be an investor event. So this is where you should do it. And so then I say, what are you working on? And I'm genuinely curious. And this woman, she had sort of a frumpy disposition. I would describe her like that. And but I'll talk to people and I'll listen to people without judgment, despite the way that she looked. You never know. You never know. Don't judge a book by its cover. You never know who you're going to meet. But I will say that the inside of this book actually matched its cover. So I'm like, what are you working on? And she's like, I can't tell you. I'm like, you can't tell me. She goes, no, it's patent pending. So I can't tell anybody without an NDA. I'm like, okay, but you have traction? You have stuff built? She's like, no, I don't have anything built. And I know traction won't be a problem because it's such a great idea. I mean, and it's patent pending. I just can't tell anybody without an NDA. People will steal it. And she's like, I'm like, so what are you going to say to these investors? She's like, well, I'll tell them enough. I'm like, okay, how is fundraising going? She's like, well, I just started. I'm like, okay, are you like a seasoned entrepreneur? No, she's not. Everybody thinks that people are going to steal their idea. Everybody thinks their idea is so good that they're just going to launch it. They're going to build in stealth mode. They're not going to tell anybody because their idea will get stolen. They will build. I've actually had ideas stolen, but let me tell you, they have been stolen once they were already validated by the market. So in 2018, January 2018, me and my friends, we invented play to earn in crypto. We invented play to earn. We made the first video game in crypto. It was the first video game and the first play to earn game. And it was a real video game where you leveled up and you battled with your monsters, and then you can get rare monsters and you can sell them on the open market. We launched by letting people buy eggs, which would hatch into the monsters when the game officially launched. We made $500,000 in under 2 days of launch. The first 2 days of launch, we made $500,000. By the end of the month, we made $1 million. And let me tell you what happened. 2 weeks later, we had a copycat stole like all of our landing page because they saw what we were doing. 2.5 months after that, Axie Infinity launched. Ended up becoming a $3 billion company. That's another story. They took elements, like our buttons and CSS and our language and some of our game ideas, totally inspired by our project, which is fine. They killed it. Congrats to them. But we validated a market need and then people stole it. But we had it validated already. And I don't think had we just said, yeah, we're going to do this and it wasn't validated, we wouldn't have had these. I don't think we would have had these copycats. I do think a lot of people were thinking about this idea because I think it was like, to us, it was like a no-brainer idea. But then again, who knows? Because like at the end of the day, it's really just an execution. If we had launched and we had failed, would people have copied us? There's a good chance that they wouldn't have. Or if they did, no one would have heard of them. So there are so many decent ideas out there and so few people who can execute. And I think I think this mistake cost people years or even more, or tens of years of their life. It's building in stealth mode. And it costs, and if you are able to raise investor money by building in stealth, which plenty of people do because investors are dumb. It costs investor money as well. And I believe that it is way more effective to build in public. I am called Edward Builds. My TikTok handle is Build in Public. If you search Build in Public, build a house. If you search Build in Public on TikTok, I show up number one. I'm a big proponent of it. I want to tell another story. This was at a family gathering a few weeks ago. My cousin, she's a career woman, and she's telling me she's working on something entrepreneurial. I'm very happy to hear that. I very much support people's entrepreneurial endeavors. I would consider myself a serial entrepreneur. I think I know a lot about it. That's part of the reason I do this daily podcast. And I say, what are you working on? Of course, she tells me because I'm a family member, but anybody else needs to be NDA'd. She tells me. And she has this great plan and this unique arbitrage opportunity that she's able to get because of her connections. She tells me, I'm like, do you have a site? She's like, no, but I have like the best brand designer. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, okay, but I'm like, okay, so you have this great idea. You have the best brand designer. That's very sweet. And why do you think people want this? She's like, well, I just know people want this. I'm like, all right, have you like tested? Have you made any announcements? Have you run any ads? Like, told anybody? I'm like, she's like, no. I'm like, okay. I'm like, but you're spending all this upfront work and capital to actually like build this thing. She's like, yeah, but I know people are going to want it. I'm like, okay, what's your go-to-market? For anybody listening, go-to-market is like, how do you get your customers? She's like, oh, like I know that influencers are going to want to like promote this for free because it's such a cool thing. And I'm like, have you tested that? She's like, no. And I didn't think she could take advice. And so I didn't give it. I just listened patiently. I think that's one of actually the best things that you can do with people is just listen patiently. And then if you can ask questions in a way, what I tried to do is I tried to ask questions in a way that would cause her to like maybe think there are better ways to do what she's doing. And because she didn't pick up on that, I didn't give advice. But a lot of people will pick up on that. And I think if people pick up on that, then some of them will be open to advice and then you can give it. But I don't give advice unless like I think somebody is kind of ready for it. I think even if your advice is good, people will hate you for it if they're not ready for it. I know. Like if your advice, this is just a side note. If your advice is good, but somebody isn't ready for it, they will hate you for it and they won't even do it. That's just a side note. So I didn't give advice in that situation. So she's going to cost it's going to suck to watch that because she's a family member and she's going to spend a lot of her own money and a lot of her time, and her time is valuable and her money is valuable. Like, no offense to her, but I mean, she doesn't have that much of it. And it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt her and it's going to hurt me to watch. But I can't do anything about it. I don't think I can do anything about it. And it's probably the same for that woman that I met last night at this networking event, at this tech event. And so if you're listening and you're building in stealth mode, don't do that. Stop it. Make some announcements to LinkedIn. Show your website. Say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Better yet, try to get people to pay. Try to get people to sign up. Do stuff that will make you get some like hard realizations because your time is valuable. Your money is valuable. You don't want to waste years of your life or months. Like you don't want to. I've done it. I'm actually speaking firsthand because I did this with a different project, and I can get deeper into that in another episode. And I did that. And the project's still going, and I think the project's going to be really successful because we haven't given up. Actually, I'll just tell you, Projects Commit Club wasted like a year and a half of my life building in stealth mode. I would tell people about it here and there, but we didn't launch it until after working on it for a year and a half. And it turned out that even though people told me it was a great idea and they wanted it, they didn't want it. Even the people who said they wanted it, they didn't want it. And then it took me months to build in some marketing funnels where we could get like customers steadily. So now this is like 2 years after we came up with the idea and we were working on it. Now we start getting like people using it. That wasn't customers, users, sorry, daily active users. But even then, they're not that sticky. The like retention isn't great, and we still have a lot of improving to do. And we could have we built something. Our MVP was overloaded with features, and we could have built way more lean and effective had we just started getting market advice in the first place. And I wasn't doing this because I partly thought people would steal it. I was pretty dumb. I partly thought people would steal it. And yeah, and I thought maybe if we waited to like have this like big launch, big drop around it, it would be better. But that was wrong. It was all wrong. That's what part of the reason I'm so passionate on this, because it burnt me. And I think part of my brand is like building in public and sharing everything. And I think part of doing that is sharing your losses so people don't make the same mistakes that you made. That was a big mistake. So building in stealth, here's what you get if you build in stealth. And sure, there are some pros. You can raise, I think the biggest pro around building in stealth, and I have friends who have done this, is you can raise a lot of money because the market hasn't told any investors like how bad your idea is, or they haven't told investors the reality of your idea. And so there can be, you can create a lot of hype around the possibility. That's actually that's really the like pro to building in stealth. I don't think somebody stealing the idea is really like a thing unless you're a huge company and everyone's paying attention to you. Then it actually matters. But I like most people are not that. Most people are not Apple. Most people are not IG. By the way, even IG said that they were going to launch Threads. They'd been talking about it, but I'm sure they had the idea months before they announced it, or years. So yeah, I mean, most people are at that. So don't build in stealth. Here are the cons. The pros is you can raise more money. You can create speculation. So, I mean, like if that's all you're trying to do and you just want to raise, then I guess like build in stealth. Yeah, build in stealth then. But even then, if you're building, VCs will be like, okay, well, we'll just wait until you launch to see what happens. At that point, you shouldn't even be building. You're just going around pitching the idea. Yeah, you could be, but yeah, just pitching the idea in stealth, because if you put yourself out there, people might not care, and then VCs will see that too. So look, if you are a fundraiser, I guess like that makes sense. If you're a builder, if you want to build and make stuff that people use and that people pay for, and I would consider myself a builder. That's what I want. I want people to care about the things that I do. I'm not trying, when I fundraise, I want it to be because this has people using it and people paying for it and people loving it. And I'm not trying to like insult the people who do go the fundraising before building route. Plenty of people do that. Respect to them. If you have those connections and people are going to give you money, it's going to be really easy to fundraise. Go ahead and do that. For a lot of people, fundraising is not easy. For a lot of people, fundraising is a grueling 3 to 6 month process where they don't, like a lot of the time they don't even fundraise and they burn themselves out. That's what the reality of fundraising is for a lot of people. But if you are somebody and you just have these connections and you can get that money, like I don't want to say don't do that. So like everyone gets their nut. I want like everyone's trying to crack a nut, and I think that's the expression. And yeah, so no judgment there. But if you're not one of those people and you're just trying to like fundraise cold with just an idea and you're spending all your time doing that, I would say like build. I think building is better, unless you have a very unique in. And most people don't. If you do, that's great. Congratulations. And if you don't, then build. So here's why you don't build in stealth. Here's the cons. You get lack of customer feedback. You get no early adopter advocacy. So like when people see you improving and building, people will want to go along with your journey and be rooting for you and will share you, and you'll create top of mind awareness, and people will remember you in your niche, and you'll unlock all this opportunity. But you don't get that if you're building in stealth. And Oh, and and then difficulty adjusting course. So you become locked in. So you don't get customer feedback. So you end up building something that nobody wants, and you spend all this time and money on it. Now you're locked in. And that sucks. That sucks. So you don't want to do that. So here's why you build in public. You get constant feedback and learning. You don't waste time. Like, you don't make these costly and time-wasting mistakes because you don't have feedback. So you get feedback, so you save time and you save money. Your go-to-market is actually built in with building in public. You get users and you get brand ambassadors by building in public. People root for you and people try your app. And you get investors. If you are looking for investors, this is a good way to do it. I'll give you an example. Every time my company reverb.chat gets a sale, I put it out on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @showprogress. And I have automation set up so that whenever we make a new sale, it goes out and we say how many active customers we have, what our MRR is, what our monthly recurring revenue is, and how much money we've made so far. And that all goes out automatically whenever we get a new customer. We get 1 to 3 customers every day. I limit it to once a day so it doesn't get too annoying. So every day I'll have one of these announcements go out on Twitter. And I've had people tweet at me asking to invest. So I think that's that's great. Build in public, you also get investors, and you can attract talent. You can attract talent too, because people like talent wants to work with somebody who was driven and motivated and sharing. And you create connection, and people know what you stand for, and talent who stands for that as well will want to align themselves with you. You iterate faster because you're learning from feedback. So you make something that people want faster. You build lean, and people trust you more. Transparency builds trust. So the lesson for this episode of the pod is F, stealth mode. Share. Even if you're an employee at a company and you're not supposed to work on things at the side, that's a lot of people, you can still do it. Here's how you can do it. You can make a landing page and drive ads to that landing. You can pay for ads and drive ads to that landing page. I don't know what your product is, but you could do that. You could have an email list too. So you could try to validate a product by driving ads to the landing page. You could collect emails, drive ads to that, send anonymous emails to this email list. You could go to events, meet people in real life, and try to validate them with paying for the product up front. So you could build it. And then they get lifetime access. Then you can really see, do people want this? How bad do they want this? Or I think a very easy thing that anybody can do is they can create a brand on TikTok and have the brand make videos on TikTok. And they can build up a following because of that. Or it could be an anonymous person building a startup and sharing the progress. And it could be something like that. And then your company doesn't know. So everyone can build in public. No excuses. Everybody can build in public. I really believe that. I think if you are an entrepreneur, you should be building in public. I think building in stealth is one of the biggest downfalls of all aspiring entrepreneurs. I hope that family member that I mentioned changes course. I hope the woman that I met last night changes course. They probably won't, at least not for a while, but you're listening to this and you can change course. So thank you so much for listening to episode number 7 of The Edward Show. This is a daily podcast that I do because I love to do it. Thank you. So about me, I told you about me. I'm a viral marketer and serial entrepreneur, and I share. And that's why I do this. I do this podcast because I like to share. I like to build in public. So, this pod here, Building Public podcast, is growing. Actually, I share plenty of ways how I drive listeners to this podcast and my numbers. You can listen to those on other episodes or just see online because they're all shared on my various social platforms. Thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you tomorrow.